Hi, salam alaikum, ya Junubin. In our previous lecture, we discussed the introduction to complex numbers, what complex number is, uh, some basic ideas about complex numbers, the form of complex number, where complex numbers are used, and the conjugate of complex numbers. So, as we are coming to new subtopic, we are going to start with the operations on complex numbers. So you don't need to forget about the previous knowledge on conjugates of complex numbers. So today, as we are going to learn about operations on complex numbers, don't forget of the basics knowledge of complex numbers. We said complex number is of a form that is equal to a plus b, where we said that a is a real number, a is a real number and b is imaginary number, and I here represent root of -1. So this is what we discussed. Since you have that idea that a complex number is having two parts, a real part and imaginary part, so we therefore says that if we are given any complex number like z is equal to 6 minus 3i, assuming a complex number is equal to z is equal to 6 minus 3i, so we will know that this part is the real part of the complex number and this one is going to be imaginary part of the complex number, real part and imaginary part. So these parts cannot be simplified to give you 1 because here this one is containing I, this one does not have. So and therefore you cannot further simplify it, and that's why we refer to it as complex number. If we have z is equal to 6 minus 3i and z is equal to a plus b, this form of a complex number, it means that 6 minus 3i is the same as a plus ib. So what will be the value of a here? What will be the value of a? A is the same as 6. A is the same as 6 because this one is the real part of this complex number, while this and this are the imaginary parts. So b is going to be equal to -3. So that is it for this complex number. Assuming we have other complex number 2 plus 3i. So what is the value of a here? A is equal to 2 and b is equal to 3. What about when we have -3 minus I? So the value of a here is equal to -3. Real part is 3, and b is equal to -1. The coefficient of I here is -1. Don't forget of that. Okay, that is all the basics of complex numbers. That is the basic of complex numbers. So since we know that in terms of x and y, we already know on x, x represent real number, x also represent real number, and y represent imaginary number. And in this one here, this complex number 6 is the real number, while -3 is the imaginary number. So we know for complex numbers they are also in combined form, where imaginary and real part are combined together. So since we already know the basics of complex numbers, so we need to go straight to addition and subtraction of complex numbers. How do we subtract or add complex numbers? For this complex number, uh, so let's try to solve this addition of this complex number. Okay, we have 3 plus 2i plus 4 minus 4i. So when you are looking at this, you will see that this one is different complex number and this one is also different. How do you add these complex numbers? So what you do in addition of complex numbers? What do you do? What you do in addition of complex numbers, you need to collect like terms, real parts together and imaginary parts together. So to do that, you have to first open the brackets. So first open the brackets here. For the first complex number, you will have 3 plus 2i. So here, this will be positive 4, then positive and negative will give you negative minus 4i. So when you reach this stage, so this is a stage where you need to collect like terms, real part together and imaginary parts together. So here you are going to have 3 plus 4, then positive 2i minus 4i, it is going to give you, okay, here plus 2i minus 4i. Now this is the stage where you are. When you add these two real parts together, you will get 7 here. Now when you come to this positive 2i minus 4i, so you are going to subtract the coefficients here. 2 minus 4 will give you negative. So here you will get negative 2i. So this is how you can subtract two complex numbers. When you subtract these two complex numbers, you will get this as the final result. So what you have to do is to open the brackets. Then after opening brackets, you need to collect like terms, imaginary parts together and real parts together. So that is what you do for complex numbers. Okay, and that is, you see here, that is the answer we got before, 7 minus 2i. Okay, let's see more examples here. Let's see more examples. More of this here. So we have a complex number negative 4 plus 7i plus 5 minus 10i. So what do we do for these two complex numbers? So we have negative 4 plus 7i plus 5 minus 10i. So when you are adding these complex numbers, what did we say before? What is the step to do here? So in the next step here, we need to remove the brackets here and see how signs affect the other signs inside in the bracket. So as it is so, then let us come to open the brackets. So nothing will change here, no sign will change because there is no sign here outside. It is the sign that is outside is positive, let's say positive 1. So this remains as negative 4 plus 7i, then positive and positive here will give you positive 5. It will give you positive 5. Then positive and negative will give you negative 10. So you'll get negative 10 there. Now, since you have opened the bracket, you need to collect like terms. Real part together, negative 4 plus 5. Then imaginary parts together. This is imaginary part. So that is positive 7, positive 7i minus 10i. So now, since you have the two parts collected together, real part together here and imaginary parts together, so now you need to operate it. Negative 4 plus 5, it will give you only 1. It will tend to be 5 minus 4, because 5 is greater than 4. You will get positive 1 here. Negative 7 minus 10i, positive 7i minus 10i. So this is going to give you negative 3i. You'll get negative 3i. So, and this is your final results for these two complex numbers that you are adding together. So you have to first open the brackets. After opening brackets, then you need to collect like terms. That is how we can add two complex numbers together. You add the imaginary part together and a real part together. So that is it. That is all about operations. That is all about addition of complex numbers. So let us come to subtraction of complex numbers. We have 4 plus 12i minus 3 minus 15i. So how do we subtract two complex numbers together? How do we subtract two complex numbers? So we have 4 here. We have 4 plus 12 plus 12i minus 3 minus 15i. So this is a complex number given to you, and what you are doing here is subtraction. You are subtracting the two complex numbers. So the first thing to deal with here is to first open the brackets. Here, open the brackets. This bracket, no sign will change there. In that bracket, no sign will change. Therefore, it is going to be 4 plus 12i. Then here we have negative and positive. It will give you negative. So you will have negative 3 here. Then this one is negative and the other sign there is negative. It is going to give you positive 15i. So since you have opened the bracket, so what you have to do now is to collect like terms. Collect like terms. So you have 4 here and negative 3, which are real numbers. 4 minus 3, then 12i and 15i. So here is plus 12i plus 15i. Now, since you have separated the like terms together, so you have to operate them. 4 minus 3 is going to give you 1, then plus 12i plus 15i, this is going to give you 27i. So that is the final result for subtraction of these two complex numbers. So what you have to do is subtraction of complex numbers. Open the brackets. After opening brackets, you need to collect like terms. After collecting like terms, add the real part or subtract them the same to imaginary parts. Don't mix them up. So let's come to another example. 5i minus negative 9 plus I. So when you look at this complex number, you will see that this part here, it is only part that is present. Real part is 0. That's why it is not included. It is 0 plus 5i. You see, it forms a complex number. Here, real part is 0, imaginary part is 5i. And that's why this one is removed, which is because it is 0. So, therefore, you can say that 5i minus negative 9 plus I, as the first thing you have to do for it is to open the bracket here. You will have 5i minus, this is minus and this is minus. What are you going to have? You will have plus 9. Negative and negative will give you positive. Negative and negative, you will have negative here, negative I. Now, since you have opened the bracket like that, you have to collect like terms. You have 5i here and negative I. These two are like terms, but 9 here is odd. So what you are going to do here is 9, bring the real part first. First 9, then plus 5i minus I. Here you are going to have 9, 5i minus I. This I here is having 1 as its coefficient. So it is going to be 5 minus 1, which is going to give you positive 4 plus 4i. Positive 4i. So this is the final result. 9 plus 4i. That is it for subtraction of that complex number. Okay, let's subtract this complex number, where we'll have 3 plus 4i, then minus 6 minus 10i. So for this complex number, open the bracket as we do, then you will have 3 plus 4i, then minus 6, because 6 is positive inside there and there's negative sign outside there, it becomes negative 6. So negative and negative will give you positive 10 here. You will have positive 10i. Now collect like term, real part together and imaginary part together. 3 minus 6 plus 4i plus 10i. Here you will have negative 3, and then 4i plus 10i will give you 14 plus 14i. So this is the final result, negative 3 plus 14i. Okay, finally we have this complex number where we have negative, I mean 2 outside bracket, negative 3i plus 4i close bracket minus 3 outside bracket 5 minus 1, I mean minus I. So how do you simplify this complex number? So since you have some real part outside the bracket, what you have to do, you multiply these brackets by those numbers outside as you are opening the bracket. So for this one here, you will multiply 2 by what is inside here, or for this case also you can simplify this one first, this bracket. Like inside here we have negative 3i and positive 4i. To simplify that, you will have 2 outside bracket, negative 3 plus 4 will give you only 1, which is the same as I. You see, it is 2 times I, then minus 3 outside bracket 5 minus I for that bracket. Now you can now open your bracket. 2 times I will give you 2i. Negative 3 times 5, it will give you negative 15. 3 times 5 is equal to 15. Negative 3 times negative I. Negative and negative will give you positive here. Positive 3I. So that's what you will get. So now what you have to do here, you collect like terms. Imaginary parts together. We have only one real part, that is negative 15. Bring it first. Negative 15 plus 2I plus 3I. So that is what we have now. So here you have to work out, add those two imaginary parts together. You will have negative 15 plus 5 plus 5I. So this is the final result. So for this case, simplify this one here inside, because they are like terms already, imaginary parts together. You will have I. So since you will have this, you need now to open the brackets. After opening the brackets, collect like terms. So that is all you can do for addition and subtraction of complex numbers. That is how you can add or subtract the complex numbers. Okay, so let us come to multiplication of complex numbers, like multiplying complex numbers together. Multiplying two complex numbers together. Multiplication of complex numbers is the same like multiplication of two equations, like these two equations here. You have 6x plus 8 times 4x plus 2. So when you are multiplying this equation, you first multiply the first part of the first equation by the second equation. Then after multiplying it with that, so now you take the second term there and multiply it times the second equation, just like that one there. So after working out in this way, so you will have this as your final result: 24x squared plus 44x plus 16. If this one is going to be your final result, so you will leave it in this form. But for complex numbers, if you substitute this x with a I, if you substitute it with I, so this x squared is not going to remain as I squared in form of complex numbers. So what you are going to do is that I squared is equal to -1. I squared is equal to -1. So therefore, this one can be -24 in complex numbers if it is I squared. So let us see it here. We have two complex numbers being multiplied together. Two complex numbers being multiplied together. We can work it outside. Assuming we have these two complex numbers, 6 plus 8i, 6 plus 8i times 4 plus 2i. These are two complex numbers. This is the real part of these complex numbers, and these are imaginary parts or imaginary numbers of these complex numbers. Okay, now what we have to do for this complex number, we take the real part and multiply times this complex number, or like 6 outside bracket 4 plus 2i. Then we take the imaginary part of the first complex number with its sign plus 8i, then multiply times this complex number, the second complex number, 4 plus 2i. So after doing this step, now you need to open the bracket. That is what you have to do here. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 2i. 6 times 2, we know it is what? It is 12. So you add I, 12i. Then you say plus 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, but we have I there. It is going to be 32i. Then 8i times 2i, we will have plus 8 times 2 is 16. This is what we know about it. I times I is going to give you I square. I times I is equal to I square. So what do you do here? That's what we said before. When we have I square, we replace it with a -1. So that I square will not remain like that. So we have to substitute -1 here and multiply it times 16. Then we add these like terms. See? So what we know about this, it is that when we multiply 16 times -1, it is going to be -16 because of I. So therefore, we will collect like terms here. We'll have 24. Then this is going to be -16, -16, because I squared is -1. Then plus 12 I plus 32 I. So now we can now simplify it. 24 minus 16. So what are you going to have? You are going to have 8. You're going to have 8 here. Then for addition of imaginary parts here, 12i plus 32i is going to give you 40 plus here 44i. You're going to get 44i. So this is how you can multiply two complex numbers. So in multiplication of two complex numbers, you have to first take the first term of the first complex number and multiply times this complex number, and then you take the second part and multiply times the complex number, the second complex number. Then after doing this way, you need to open the bracket. Open the bracket to get this. After getting the bracket, where you have I square, substitute I square with a -1. Substitute I square with a -1. Then after doing that, collect like terms. After collecting like terms, you will have your final result. So that is all about it. This is what we have here. This is the answer for it. You replace I square with -1. Replace I square with -1. After doing that, then simplify it. So that is for multiplication of complex numbers. So we can still multiply this complex number here. Let's multiply this complex number so that we will have much understanding about multiplication of complex numbers. We have 6 plus 8. 6 plus 8i times 6 minus 8i. So this one is a complex number that is associated with this. The difference of these two complex numbers is the sign here. This one is positive and this one is negative. This is another way of expressing the conjugate of a complex number. This one is a conjugate of this complex number, you see, because of the sign of imaginary parts are different. So let us go to our business to multiply the two together and see how complex numbers behave when we multiply it by the conjugate. So here we are going to have 6 plus 8i times 6 minus 8i. So what did we say before about multiplication? We first take this first number, multiply times this complex number. That is going to be 6 times 6 minus 8i. Then you take the second term with its sign. So it is going to be plus 8i 8i times 6 minus 8i. So after now doing this, you have to open the brackets. 6 times 6 is going to give you 36. 6 times 8, this is negative. 6 times 8i is going to give you negative 48i. Then we are done with this complex number. So let us come to this one, multiplication of 8i times 6 is going to give you positive 48, positive 48i. 8i times negative 8i, you are going to have negative 64i square. You are going to have negative 64i square. Now when you look at this, since there is I square here, you are going to multiply negative 64 by negative 1. If you multiply negative 64 by negative 1, you will have positive 64. Therefore, what you have to do in this step is to collect the like terms here. 36 here, and this is going to be a real number. So it is going to give you plus 64. Then this part cancel this part. Are you seeing? 48, negative 48i plus 48i, it is going to give you 0. You are going to remain with only this part. 36 plus 64. 36 plus 64 is going to give you 100. So your answer is going to be 100. And that is how you can multiply two complex numbers. And remember, when you are multiplying a complex number by its conjugate, it is going to give you the square of the real number and imaginary number, like this. The square of 6 is 36, the square of 8 is 64. So then now you add up together. So, and in multiplication of a complex number by its conjugate, the two middle terms will cancel. Okay, we will solve these numbers in exercise 4 in separate video. Let us go to division of complex numbers, because this one here will solve them in different videos. So follow us and we'll solve them. Okay, let us come to division of complex numbers. So division of complex numbers. So in division of complex numbers, you don't need to forget about the conjugate. How to get the conjugates, because when you are dividing two complex numbers, it involves use of conjugate there. So, and when you multiply conjugates, it will cause two middle terms to cancel each other, like the other examples that we recently did in multiplication of complex numbers. The last example there, you see the two middle terms, negative 48i plus 48i, cancel. So, and that is what will be happening in conjugate here when you are multiplying the two conjugates under division of complex numbers. So let us have this complex number and see what will happen in division of complex numbers. 5 plus 2i divided by 7 plus 4i. Let's divide this complex number 5 plus 2i divided by 7 plus 4i. So in division of complex numbers, so the first thing you have to know is to get the conjugate of denominator. You need to get the conjugate of this complex number. So when you get the conjugate of denominator, that is this complex number that is below the other one. So what you have to do, you multiply both numerator, the complex number above, times this complex number at the bottom. So you multiply the two complex numbers by the conjugate, So that is what you have to know in division of complex numbers. So the first thing, first find the conjugate of denominator. After getting the conjugate of denominator, so you have to multiply both numerator and denominator by the conjugate, of denominator. So how do we get conjugate of a complex number? To get the conjugate of complex number, we change the sign of imaginary part. We only change the sign of imaginary part, and that will give us the conjugate of a complex number. So the conjugate of this one here is 7 minus 4i. So now let us multiply both numerator and denominator by the conjugate. So we multiply the upper complex number by the conjugate, which is 7 minus 4i, out of, we multiply the denominator by the same conjugate, 7 minus 4i. So this is what we do: multiply both numerator and denominator by the conjugate. So after this, so you have to now open the brackets, because you will be multiplying the upper complex numbers and the bottom complex numbers. So what do we do in multiplication of complex numbers? So we first take the first part of a complex number, like 5, and then we multiply it times this complex number. Or so let us do it. As we take 5 first, we multiply 5 times the conjugate, that is 7 minus 4i. Then we take this second part of the first complex number, which is positive 2i. So we take it as positive 2i times the conjugate, which is 7 minus 4i. So after finishing the upper part of the complex number, so now you come to denominator. You multiply the two complex numbers here, the complex number by the conjugate. So you will first take 7, which is the part here, and multiply it times this one, or times that complex number. It will be 7 times 7 minus 4 minus I. Then here you take the second term there, which is positive 4i times the conjugate, which is 7 minus 4i. So when you do this, now you have to now multiply these numbers outside here by the brackets. So you will have 7 here. You will have 5 times 7, which will give you 35. So you will have 35 here. 35. So what about 5 times negative 4? You will get negative 20i, because that one is 4i. 20i. Then you go to the next one here, which is positive 2 times 7. You will get positive 14i. So then now you multiply positive 2i times negative 4i. Here negative and positive will give you negative. 2 times 4 will give you 8. I times I will give you I square. You see? Divide by 7 times 7 here. Times this 7. You'll get 49. You'll get 49. Then 7 times negative 4. You will get negative 28. Negative 28i. because that one is negative 4i. Then come to this one here. You will have positive 4i times 7. It will give you positive 28i. Positive 28i. Then positive 4i times negative 4i. Positive and negative will give you negative. 4 times 4 is 16. 16. Then you also have I times I. I times I will give you I square. Therefore, you will have 16 I square. So what did we say about when we have I square? What we do, we replace I square with a negative 1. Replace I square with a negative 1. And then you multiply negative 1 times negative 8, which will give you positive. You will have positive 8 later, which is a real number. The same for here. So I square is going to be replaced with negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 16. It is going to give you positive 16 as a real number. You will have here 35 plus 8. 35 plus 8. Then negative 20i plus 14i. That is on upper part. So the denominator here, you will have 49 plus 16. And these two here will cancel. They will cancel. Negative 28i plus 28i is going to give you 0. So let us have 35 plus 8. 35 plus 8 negative 20 negative 20 plus 14 this one I because they are imaginary. So divide by 49 plus 16. So the final solution is going to be 43 minus 6i divided by 65. So this is going to be your final answer for the division of those two complex numbers. So let's see these complex numbers. We are dividing positive 2 plus 3i out of negative 1 plus 5i. Okay, what did we say about division of two complex numbers? We first find the conjugate of denominator, and to get the conjugate of denominator we have to change the sign. If it is positive, it is going to be negative. If it is negative, it is going to be positive. So here we are going to multiply these complex numbers, both numerator and denominator, by the conjugate. So positive 2 plus 3i times negative 1 minus 5i. This is going to be the conjugate of denominator, divided by negative 1 plus 5i times negative 1 minus 5i. So after this one, you just do normal multiplication of complex numbers. So you are going to take 2 and multiply times this complex number, or so 2 times negative 1 minus 5i. Then you take positive 3i times negative 1 minus 5i divided by negative 1. Take negative 1 there, multiply times this one here, or negative 1 times negative 1 negative 5i. Then take negative 5 here, I mean positive 5 i positive 5i times negative 1 minus 5i. So here multiply 2 times negative 1. It is going to give you negative 2. Positive 2 times negative 5i, it is going to give you negative 10i. So come to this one here. Positive 3i times negative 1, it is going to give you negative 3i. Positive 3i times negative 5i is going to give you here negative 15i square, because I times I is I square. Divide by negative 1 times this bracket, which is going to be negative 1 times negative 1, which is going to give you positive 1. Negative 1 times negative 5i, you will get positive 5i. So then come to positive 5i times this bracket, or you'll have positive 5i times negative 1, which will give you negative 5i. Then positive 5i times negative 5i, it is going to give you negative 25. Negative 25 I square. I times I is I square. So you see, now as you have come to this stage, you have I square here. Replace it with negative 1 and multiply this negative 1 by negative 15, which is going to give you positive 15. The same to this one here. Replace it with negative 1 and multiply negative 1 by negative 25 to give you positive 25. And as you will do so, it is going to be negative 2 plus 5, which are like terms. Then you add these two together. The same for denominator. It is going to be only 1 plus 25, because 5i minus 5i will give you 0. They will cancel out. You will only add 1 plus 25. 25, yeah. So let us work out this. Negative 2 plus 15 minus 10i minus 3i, divide by 1 plus 25. Here negative 2 plus 15 is going to give you 13. You will have 13. Negative 10i minus 3i is negative 13. Negative 13i. Divide by 1 plus 25 is 26. So this will give you the final solution. So just do it simply like that. Follow the steps. Step 1, find the conjugate of denominator. Step 2, multiply both numerator and denominator by the conjugate. Then you do normal operations. Then the other step is where you get I square. So replace I square with a negative 1. Then you simplify it. So that is division of complex numbers. That is how we divide two complex numbers. We get the conjugate of the denominator as we are dividing the two complex numbers. So you see the last answer here is what we got there. Okay, here we have some of the examples given. Let's work this one out here. So this one is what we did in multiplication of complex numbers, like 2 minus I times 3 plus 4 I. So you first take this first term and multiply times the second complex number. This is going to be 2 times 3 plus 4i. Then you take negative I there outside bracket, multiply times the second bracket, which is 3 plus 4i. So now open the bracket. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 it is positive 8i. Don't forget of I. Then you come to this one here. Negative I times 3 is negative 3i. Then negative I times positive 4i. Negative and positive will give you negative 4. I times I is I square. So since we got I square here, we are going to replace I square with the negative 1. Then we multiply negative 1 by negative 4, which is going to give you positive later. Yeah. So that means this part is going to be a like term of this one here. You see that? Okay. Now we'll have 6 plus 4. 6 plus 4, we are collecting like terms here. 6 plus 4 plus 8i minus 3i. So now we'll get the final results here. 6 plus 4 is 10. 8i minus 3i is going to give you positive 5i. So, and this is all. That is it. Yeah. Okay. Then the other second number here is talking about division of complex number. You are simplifying 3 divided by 2i. So you see the first one there is a complex number where imaginary part is 0. Where imaginary part is 0, like here plus 0i. See, so we don't include it because it is 0. So, and in this denominator, this is a complex number where real part is the same as 0, and that's why it is not included there. Okay, how do we simplify these two complex numbers as we are dividing them? So what we do, we multiply both numerator and denominator by the imaginary part, that is I. We multiply both numerator and denominator by I. When you get any complex number of this form where denominator, like down here, is only imaginary part, just take I and multiply it to numerator and denominator. So for this one, we will multiply both numerator and denominator by I. So multiply 3 times I out of 2i times I. And here you are going to have 3 times I is going to give you 3i divided by 2i times I. You will have 2i square because you are multiplying 2 i's here. So it is going to be I square. So here you are going to have 3. Okay, see now you have 2i here. You are going to replace I square with a negative 1, and then you multiply it times 2. You will have your 3i here divided by 2 times I square, which is negative 1. Your final result is going to be 3i divided by 2i times negative, 2 times negative 1 is what? Is negative 2, which is equal to negative 3i out of 2. This is the final result. This is how you can solve it. Negative 3i out of 2. Okay, let's see the last one here. We have 3 out of 2 plus I. The above complex number, this one here, the one which is numerator, is having a 0 imaginary part, and that's why it is not there. But for this one here, all are there. imaginary part and real part. So your focus is to find the conjugate of a complex of a denominator here if all parts are given. You see, now the conjugate of this can be simply gotten by changing the sign here to be negative. So what we have to do here, we multiply both numerator and denominator by the conjugate, which is going to be 2 minus I. We change the sign of imaginary part. Divide by this complex number times its conjugate, which is 2 minus I. So 3 times 2. So this is going to give you 3 times 2 minus what that out of 2. You first take this part first and multiply it times the second complex number. 2 times 2 minus I. Then you take the second part, positive I times 2 minus I. So here you have to simplify it by multiplying the so here we have to multiply 3 times 2, which is going to give you 6, and then 3 times negative I is going to give you 3I out of 2 times 2, you will get 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative I is negative 2I. Then come to this one here. Positive I times 2, you will get positive 2I. Then I times negative I, you will get negative I square. So in this one here, negative 2I plus 2I give you 0. Then replace I square with negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1. So what you will have here is positive 1. That means your conclusion here is going to be 6 minus 3I out of 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1, which is 5. So this is the final result. 6 minus 3I out of 5. So that is the final answer. In this exercise, we shall solve them in the separate video. So you have to follow us very well so that you don't miss this exercise. So we will solve them. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please share it with your friends. We are here to help you, and if you have anything to say, put it in comment section, and we are going to be ready to answer it. And thank you so much, and God bless you. God bless South Sudan. South Sudan education first. Thank you. Bye.